Welcome, relax your mind. If you enjoy this content, like and subscribe. Where are you listening from? Just a heads up, there are only a few ads in the first 20 minutes, and after that, it's all completely ad-free. I hope you'll give this video a chance because I truly believe you won't find stories quite like these anywhere else. Story 1. The house had been listed for 23 years. No one knew exactly why it remained unsold. The price was low, too low, according to every real estate agent who had ever tried to move it. The location was perfect, just outside a quiet suburban town where children rode bikes in the evenings and neighbors waved from their porches. It should have been a dream purchase. But no one stayed. And now, it belonged to Daniel Mercer. The first thing Daniel noticed wasn't the silence. It was the smell. Not rut, not decay. Something stranger. Something stale. Like air that hadn't been breathed properly in years. It clung to the inside of his nose, settled into his throat, and refused to leave. He stood in the doorway, keys still in his hand, staring into the dim interior. "This is it," he muttered to himself. "A fresh start." That's what he told everyone. New town, new house, new life, no past. The realtor had been unusually quiet during the signing. No cheerful small talk, no congratulations. Just paperwork, signatures, and a tight smile that never quite reached her eyes. When Daniel asked why the house had been on the market so long, she hesitated. Then she said, "Some homes just don't fit people." He laughed it off at the time. Now, standing in the doorway, he wasn't laughing. The floor creaked under his first step inside. The sound echoed too far, too loud, like the house was empty in a way that went beyond furniture and people. The living room opened up before him, dust particles floating lazily in the weak afternoon light. The windows were intact, but the sunlight felt dimmer here, filtered through something unseen. Daniel dropped his bag near the couch. "Hello," he called out instinctively. No answer, but the silence that followed felt wrong. Not peaceful, not empty, waiting. He shook his head and forced himself to move. Room by room, he explored. Kitchen, old but functional. Dining area, bare, with faint marks on the floor where furniture had once stood. Hallway, narrow, slightly colder than the rest of the house. Then the stairs. They rose in a straight line to the second floor, disappearing into shadow. Daniel stared at them longer than he meant to. Then, exhaling slowly, he climbed. The second floor held 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. The first room was empty. The second had peeling wallpaper, its pattern warped into shapes that almost looked like faces if you stared too long. The third. Daniel paused at the doorway. Something about it felt different. He stepped inside. The air was colder here. Not just slightly, noticeably. His breath didn't fog, but it felt like it should. The room was empty except for one thing. A closet. Its door was slightly open. Just a crack. Daniel frowned. He was sure the realtor had said the house was completely cleared out. Slowly, he walked toward the closet. The floor creaked again, louder this time. Too loud, as if something beneath it shifted in response. He stopped. Listened. Nothing. Just an old house, he muttered. He reached for the closet door. Pushed it open. Inside. Nothing. Just darkness. Deeper than it should have been. The kind of darkness that didn't feel like the absence of light, but the presence of something else. Daniel leaned in slightly. And that's when he heard it. A sound. Faint. Barely there. Like breathing. He froze. Listened harder. It stopped. Daniel stepped back quickly, heart pounding. "Nope," he whispered. "Nope. Just pipes. Old pipes." He shut the closet door firmly. But as he turned away, creak, the door opened again. Slowly. By itself. Daniel stared. Every rational explanation ran through his mind at once. Warped wood, pressure changes, loose hinges. "Yeah," he said, louder now. "That's all it is." He stepped forward again. This time, he slammed the door shut. Hard. And this time, it stayed closed. He backed out of the room. Didn't run. Didn't panic. Just left. That night, Daniel sat up in the living room. He didn't want to sleep upstairs. Not yet. The couch was uncomfortable, but it was enough. He turned on the TV for noise, letting some late-night reruns fill the silence. At some point, exhaustion pulled him under. He woke up at 2:13 a.m. Exactly. He didn't know how he knew that, but he did. The TV was off. The house was silent. And something had changed. The smell. It was stronger now. Thicker, like the air had been disturbed. Daniel sat up slowly. His heart was already racing, though he didn't know why. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Upstairs. Slow. Deliberate. Heavy enough to be unmistakable. Step. 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 Daniel stared at the ceiling. Every instinct told him to stay still. To pretend he hadn't heard. To let whatever it was pass. But the footsteps didn't pass. They moved. Across the second floor. Back and forth. Like someone pacing. His mouth went dry. "Hello," he called out weakly. The footsteps stopped instantly. Silence. Then, step. Directly above him. Daniel shot to his feet. "No," he said. "No, no, no." There was no one else in the house. He knew that. He had checked every room, every door, every window. And yet, something was upstairs. The floor creaked again. This time, not above him. Behind him. Daniel turned slowly. The hallway leading to the stairs stretched into darkness. And at the far end, something moved. Not a person. Not clearly. Just a shape. Too tall. Too still. Watching him. Daniel couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't move. Then, the shape shifted. Just slightly. And began to walk toward him. The smell intensified. The air grew heavy. The silence pressed in. And in that moment, Daniel Mercer understood something with absolute certainty. The house had never been empty. It had been waiting. Daniel Mercer didn't remember deciding to run. One moment he stood frozen in the living room, staring at the tall, unnatural shape at the end of the hallway, and the next, his body moved on instinct. He bolted. His shoulder slammed into the wall as he turned, scrambling toward the front door. His fingers fumbled with the lock, slipping once, twice. Behind him. Step. 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 Slow. Unhurried. Certain. "Come on, come on," Daniel whispered frantically. The lock finally clicked. He yanked the door open. And froze. The outside was wrong. The streetlights were gone. The quiet suburban road he had arrived on only hours ago had vanished into darkness so complete it looked solid. Not night, absence. Like the world beyond the doorway had been erased. Daniel staggered back, slamming the door shut again. No, no, that's not possible. Step. Closer now. He turned. The hallway stretched longer than before. It hadn't been that long. He knew it hadn't. But now it seemed to extend endlessly, the walls narrowing slightly, as if the house itself were drawing inward. And the shape. It was still there. Closer. Daniel forced himself to breathe. "This isn't real," he whispered. "I'm dreaming. I have to be dreaming." But the pain in his chest was real. The smell was real. That thick, stale, suffocating air. It filled his lungs again. Step! The figure moved again. Not walking like a person. Gliding. Its limbs bent wrong. Too long, too loose, as if gravity didn't fully apply to it. Daniel's stomach twisted. "Stay back!" he shouted, grabbing the nearest thing, a lamp from the side table. He held it out like a weapon, his hands shaking. "I mean it." The figure stopped. For a moment, everything went still. Silent. Then, it tilted its head. Not like a human. Too far. Too smoothly. Daniel's breath hitched. And then the voice came. Not from the figure. Not from the hallway. But from everywhere. "You came." Daniel staggered backward. What are you?" Silence. Then, "You came." The same words. Exactly the same. No change. No emotion. Just repetition. The figure took another step forward. Daniel turned and ran deeper into the house. He didn't think. Didn't plan. He just moved, through the kitchen, down the narrow hallway, past the dining room, his footsteps echoing too loudly in the suffocating silence. Behind him, nothing. No footsteps. No sound. That was worse. He reached the back door. Tried it. Locked. Of course it was locked. His hands trembled as he fumbled with the latch. Open, open, damn it. Click. He pulled it open, and froze again. Not darkness this time. Worse. The backyard was there, but it wasn't right. The fence stretched too far back, disappearing into a fog that hadn't been there before. The trees beyond it were taller, thinner, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers clawing at the sky. And the ground. It looked uneven, like something had been buried there. More than once. Daniel slammed the door shut. Nope. No. No way. You cannot leave. He spun around. The voice was clearer now. Closer. The figure stood at the end of the kitchen. Closer than it should have been. Daniel hadn't heard it move. His chest tightened. How are you doing that? No answer. The figure took another step. The light flickered. And for a split second, Daniel saw it clearly. Not a face. Not a person. But layers. As if multiple figures occupied the same space, overlapping, shifting in and out of alignment. Some tall. Some small. Some twisted. All wrong. Then the light steadied. And it was just a silhouette again. Daniel's mind reeled. This house, he whispered. This house isn't normal. The house is full. The words slammed into him. Full of what? He demanded, his voice cracking. Silence. Then, you will see. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Daniel gasped, backing into the counter. No, no, no. He fumbled blindly, knocking over objects, his hands searching for anything. A flashlight. A phone. Anything. His fingers brushed his pocket. His phone. He yanked it out, turning on the screen. The faint glow illuminated the kitchen. Barely. But enough. The figure was gone. Daniel scanned the room wildly. Nothing. But the silence. It wasn't empty. It was listening. He backed slowly out of the kitchen, his phone light trembling. Every shadow seemed deeper now, stretching unnaturally along the walls. The hallway ahead felt wrong. Longer. Narrower. Step. Daniel froze. The sound came from upstairs. Step. Step. He swallowed hard. It was pacing again. But this time, it wasn't alone. More footsteps joined. Lighter. Heavier. Dragging. Shuffling. Dozens. Daniel's blood ran cold. They're all up there, he whispered. The floor creaked violently above him, as if something heavy had shifted. Or many things. Then, a loud thud, right above the living room. Daniel stepped back slowly. His mind screamed at him to run, to hide, to escape, but there was nowhere to go. The doors didn't lead outside. The house changed. The things, inside it could move without sound. And then, the whisper came again, right behind him. Don't look. Daniel's entire body locked up. He hadn't heard anything move, hadn't felt anything, but something was there, right behind him. His grip tightened on the phone. His breathing became shallow. If you look. The voice was softer now. Closer. Almost gentle. You stay. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. Every instinct told him to turn. To see. To understand. But something deeper, something primal, told him not to. His hands trembled violently. The air behind him shifted, as if something leaned closer. He could feel it now. Not touch. Not exactly. Presence. Waiting. Daniel took one slow step forward, then another. The presence followed. Stay, it whispered. He shook his head. No. Another step. The pressure increased. The smell thickened. Stay. No. He kept walking. Slowly. Deliberately. The whispers grew louder. Angrier. Layered voices overlapping. Stay. Daniel reached the living room. The couch. The front door. He didn't stop. Didn't turn. Didn't look back. He dropped onto the couch, facing forward, gripping the phone like a lifeline. The presence lingered behind him. For a long moment. It didn't move. Then, it retreated. The pressure lifted. The smell faded slightly. And the house went silent. Daniel didn't move. Didn't breathe properly. Didn't think. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. He didn't know. Eventually, the faintest gray light crept through the windows. Morning. The house looked normal again. The hallway was its proper length. The doors were just doors. The air, while still stale, no longer suffocated him. Daniel finally turned. Slowly, carefully. Nothing. He was alone. But as he sat there, trembling, exhausted, trying to convince himself it had all been some kind of nightmare, his phone screen flickered. A notification appeared. No sender. No number. Just a message. You didn't look. Daniel stared at it. His blood ran cold. Then, another message appeared. Good. The screen went black, and from somewhere deep inside the house, very faintly, he heard it again, breathing. Daniel Mercer did not sleep. Not after what he had seen. Not after what he had heard. And definitely not after the message on his phone. You didn't look. Good. He read it again. And again. And again. Each time hoping the words would change. They didn't. By morning, exhaustion had settled deep into his bones, but his mind refused to shut down. Every creak of the house, every shift in the stale air, every flicker of light felt like a warning. Or worse, an invitation. This isn't real, Daniel whispered, pacing the living room. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it anymore. Because real or not, it was happening. He needed proof. Something tangible. Something he could hold on to. His eyes drifted toward the hallway. Toward the stairs. No, he muttered immediately. Not upstairs. Not yet. Instead, he turned toward the walls. It started small. Almost nothing. A faint scratching sound. Daniel froze mid-step. He held his breath. Listened. Scratch, scratch. It was soft. Uneven. Like something dragging lightly across wood. He turned slowly toward the sound. It was coming from the wall beside the living room. Daniel stepped closer. The noise stopped instantly. Silence. He frowned. Hello? Nothing. He placed his hand against the wall. Cold. Colder than it should have been. Then, scratch. He jerked his hand back. The sound had come from directly beneath his palm. His heart began to pound. No, he whispered. No, that's not. Scratch, scratch. This time, it moved. From one side of the wall to the other. Daniel's breath caught. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. Is someone there? He asked, his voice barely steady. Silence. Then, a different sound. A whisper, so faint he almost missed it. Help. Daniel's eyes widened. What? He stepped closer again, pressing his ear against the wall. The wood felt ice-cold against his skin. Help. The voice was clearer now. Weak. Desperate. There's someone in there, Daniel said, panic rising. There has to be. He stumbled back, looking around frantically. There's no way. These are solid walls. There's no space. No. Please. The whisper broke him. Hold on. Daniel shouted. I'm going to get you out. He rushed into the kitchen, grabbing a knife from the counter. It wasn't much, but it was something. Back at the wall, the scratching had started again. Faster now. More urgent. Daniel pressed the blade against the wood. I'm going to cut through, okay? Just stay there. Don't. He froze. Don't open. Daniel blinked. What? The voice had changed. It was still weak. Still desperate. But now, it sounded afraid. Don't open. Daniel repeated slowly. It his. The air shifted. Daniel felt it immediately. That same heavy pressure from the night before. Behind him. He turned. Nothing. But the feeling didn't go away. It hears you, the voice whispered. It watches. It waits. Daniel's grip tightened on the knife. Who is it? Silence. Then, a new voice. Deeper. Closer. You shouldn't listen. Daniel spun around. No, 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 no. The hallway was empty. But the voice. It wasn't coming from the wall anymore. It was coming from everywhere. You're not real, Daniel said, backing away. You're not real. You're not real. It told you not to look. Daniel froze. The words hit him like a physical blow. You listened. The temperature dropped. Now listen again. The scratching stopped. The whispering stopped. Silence flooded the house. Daniel stood there, shaking, his mind racing. Then, a new sound. From upstairs, a door creaking open. Slowly, deliberately, Daniel's chest tightened. "No. Go," the voice whispered. His feet didn't move. "Go." "I'm not going up there," Daniel said firmly. The silence deepened. Then it comes down. The floor above him creaked. A slow, heavy step. Daniel's resolve shattered. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, I'll go." He moved toward the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. The house seemed to shift around him. The walls narrowing. The air thickening. Halfway up the stairs, he heard it again. Breathing. Close. Too close. He didn't stop. Didn't look. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched before him. Normal. Almost. Except for one thing. All 3 bedroom doors were open. Daniel was sure they had been closed. Slowly, he stepped forward. The first room. Empty. The second. The peeling wallpaper seemed worse now. The shapes more defined. More like faces. Watching him. He turned away quickly. The third room. The closet door was open again. Wider this time. Darkness spilling out like a physical thing. Daniel approached it slowly. His heart thundered in his chest. "Don't," the faint voice from earlier whispered in his mind. He hesitated. Then, he heard it. From inside the closet. Breathing. Louder than before. And something else. A voice. "You came back." Daniel's blood ran cold. "I didn't mean to," he whispered. The darkness shifted. "You always come back." A shape moved inside. Not stepping out. Not fully. Just enough to suggest something was there. Waiting. Daniel took a step back. "I'm leaving," he said. "I'm leaving this house. I don't care what it takes." The voice interrupted him. "You already tried." Daniel froze. Images flashed in his mind. The front door. The darkness beyond it. The endless yard. "You won't let me leave," he whispered. Silence. Then, "You can leave." Daniel's head snapped up. "What?" The darkness inside the closet seemed to pulse. "But not all of you." The words sank into him. "What does that mean?" he demanded. No answer. Instead, the closet door began to close. Slowly, Daniel watched, unable to move. Just before it shut completely, he saw something. A hand, pressed against the inside of the darkness. Not reaching out, pushing, as if something inside was trying to get out. The door slammed shut. Silence. Daniel stood there, shaking. Then, from behind him, "Help." The wall. The voice had returned. And this time, it wasn't alone. More voices joined. Whispering, crying, begging, all around him. Inside the walls. Daniel clutched his head. "Stop, stop, please." "We stayed." "Don't stay. It keeps you." The whispers grew louder, overlapping, chaotic, and beneath them, a deeper voice. Calm, certain. They listened. Daniel's breath hitched. "Will you?" The house creaked. The walls pulsed. The air thickened again. And Daniel realized something that made his stomach drop. The house wasn't just haunted. It was full of people. People who had come before him. People who had heard the rules. People who had made the wrong choice. And now, they were part of it. The voices in the walls weren't echoes. They were survivors. Or what was left of them. And they were trying to warn him. Daniel didn't leave the upstairs right away. He couldn't. The whispers clung to him. Not just in the walls, but in his head. "Don't stay. It keeps you." "We stayed." He pressed his hands against his ears, squeezing his eyes shut. "Stop, just stop." But the voices didn't fade. They weren't just sounds. They were memories. Fragments. Pieces of people who had once stood exactly where he stood now. And something else. Something beneath them. That calm voice. "Will you?" Daniel staggered backward, nearly tripping over his own feet as he rushed out of the third bedroom. He slammed the door behind him. It didn't help. The hallway felt tighter now. Shorter, but heavier, like the house had shifted its focus. On him. "I'm getting out," he whispered, though the words felt hollow now. The front door didn't lead outside. The backyard wasn't real. The walls were alive. But there had to be something. A way out. There had to be. He moved toward the stairs again. Halfway down, he heard it. A sound he hadn't heard before. A low, dull thump. From below. Daniel froze. Another thump. Slow. Heavy. Like something striking wood. From underneath. His stomach dropped. "There's no basement," he whispered. The realtor had said so. The house plans had confirmed it. There was no lower level. And yet, thump. The sound came again. Stronger. Closer. Daniel descended the rest of the stairs slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. The living room stretched before him. Normal. Still. But the sound. It wasn't coming from the living room. It was coming from the kitchen. Daniel hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to stay away. But another thought pushed forward. If something is down there, maybe it's another way out. He swallowed hard, then stepped into the kitchen. The moment he crossed the threshold, the air changed. Colder, denser, and the smell, stronger than ever. Not just stale now. Rotten. Daniel gagged slightly, covering his mouth. What is that? Thump. Right beneath his feet. He jumped back instinctively. The sound had come from directly below the center of the kitchen floor. Daniel stared down. The tiles looked normal. Old, cracked in places, but nothing unusual. Another thump. This time, a faint vibration followed. Daniel's breath quickened. Slowly, he crouched down, ran his fingers along the edges of the tiles. Nothing. But then, he noticed it. A line. Faint. Almost invisible. Running along the floor. Not a crack. Not damage. A seam. Daniel's heart skipped. No. He traced it with his fingers. It formed a rectangle. Large enough for a door. Hidden in plain sight. Thump. The sound came again. Louder now. More urgent. Daniel stood up quickly. Step back. There's something down there. Don't. The whisper came from the wall again. Faint. Weak. Don't open. Daniel clenched his jaw. You said that before, he muttered. But you also said it hears. Silence. Then. It knows. A chill ran down his spine. Knows what? No answer. The house creaked softly. Then, the calm voice returned. You're curious. Daniel turned slowly. The hallway was empty. But the presence. It was there. Watching. Waiting. That's why you came. I didn't come for this, Daniel snapped. I came for a house. You came because it called. His chest tightened. No, he whispered. That's not true. Everyone says that. The floor beneath him trembled slightly. Thump. Louder now. More violent. Daniel looked down again. The seam in the floor seemed darker now. More defined. Like it wanted to be seen. You want me to open it, Daniel said slowly. Silence. Then, it wants you to choose. Daniel's pulse pounded in his ears. Choose what? No answer. Only. Thump. This time, something new followed. A sound. A voice. Muffled. Weak. Help. Daniel's breath caught. No. Please. It was coming from below. From beneath the floor. There's someone down there, Daniel whispered. We're all down here. His blood ran cold. We, he asked. Too many. The floor creaked loudly. Another voice joined. Then another. Layered whispers rising from beneath him. It keeps us. Don't open. You'll join us. Daniel staggered back, shaking his head. No, no, I can't just leave you. They opened it too. The calm voice cut through everything. Daniel froze. Every one of them. His chest tightened painfully. Then how do I help them? He demanded. Silence. Then. You don't. The words hit harder than anything else. You're lying, Daniel said. You want me to leave them down there. I want you to survive. The floor trembled violently. Thump. Something struck the underside of the hidden door. Hard. Daniel jumped back. Please. The voice beneath him was clearer now. Closer. It's dark. Daniel's hands trembled. They're alive, he whispered. They're still alive. Not for long. The calm voice again. It gets hungry. Daniel's stomach twisted. What gets hungry? Silence. Then, the sound stopped. Completely. The house fell silent. Too silent. Daniel's breath came in short, sharp bursts. "Hello," he called out cautiously. No answer. Nothing from below. Nothing from the walls. Nothing from anywhere. And somehow, that was worse. He stepped forward slowly, toward the hidden door. His mind raced. If they are alive, I can't leave them. But if I open it, the whispers echoed in his head. Don't open. His hand hovered over the seam. Just one move. Just one decision. Behind him, the air shifted. The presence returned. Closer than ever. Choose. Daniel's entire body tensed. His fingers touched the edge of the hidden door. And in that moment, he realized the truth. This wasn't about curiosity. This wasn't about escape. This was a test. Every sound, every voice, every warning. It was all leading to this. One choice. Open the door, and risk becoming part of whatever was down there. Or walk away, and leave the voices to whatever fate awaited them. Daniel closed his eyes. His hand trembled. The house held its breath, waiting. Daniel didn't realize he was crying until a tear hit the floor. It landed right on the seam, right where the hidden door waited. His hand trembled inches above it. His mind screamed at him to stop, to walk away, to survive. But the voices, please. It's cold. Don't leave us. They weren't distant anymore. They were right beneath him, pressed against whatever separated them from the world above. Daniel exhaled slowly. His decision settled into his bones like a weight. I'm not leaving you, he whispered. Behind him, the presence shifted. Then you choose wrong. Daniel clenched his jaw. Maybe, he said, but I'm choosing anyway. And with that, he dropped to his knees. His fingers slid into the narrow gap along the seam. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the floor moved. A deep, grinding sound echoed through the kitchen as the hidden door shifted upward slightly, as if something beneath it had unlocked. Daniel gasped, pulling back instinctively. The door rose just enough to reveal darkness beneath. Not empty darkness, moving darkness, like a thick, shifting fog that pulsed slowly, and from within it, the voices surged. Help US. Daniel flinched, but he didn't stop. He grabbed the edge of the hidden door with both hands. Pulled. It resisted. Heavy. Too heavy. Then, from below, hands appeared. Dozens of them. Thin. Pale. Trembling. They reached upward, pressing against the underside of the door. Helping him. Daniel's breath hitched. Okay, I've got you. Just. Together, they pulled. The door gave way with a violent crack. It swung open. And the smell hit him like a physical force. Rot. Decay. Something ancient. Something wrong. Daniel gagged, turning his head as the darkness below churned. Then, he saw it. Stairs. Descending into blackness. Narrow. Steep. And at the bottom, movement. Not one thing. Many. Shifting shapes pressing against each other in the dark. The hands disappeared, replaced by faces. Not fully visible, but enough. Sunken eyes. Open mouths. Watching him. Daniel's heart pounded. You're real. Come down. The voices were clearer now. Stronger. Help us. Behind him, the calm voice returned. Last chance. Daniel didn't turn. They need help, he said. They had help. His chest tightened. What does that mean? Silence. Then, they said the same thing. Daniel's stomach twisted. He looked back down the stairs. The figures shifted. One of them moved forward, closer to the light. A man, or what used to be one. His skin was stretched too tight across his bones. His eyes too wide, too empty. Please, the man whispered. Please, it hurts. Daniel took a step forward. The moment his foot touched the first stair, the house groaned. Not loudly, but deeply, as if something massive had shifted beneath it. The man's expression changed. For just a second, relief. Then, something else. Hunger. Daniel froze. What? The man's mouth stretched wider. Too wide. Behind him, the others stirred. Their movements became more frantic. Come down. The voices overlapped. Desperate. Eager. Too eager. Daniel's breath caught. You're not just trapped, he whispered. The realization hit him all at once. They are feeding you. The calm voice spoke again. Now you see. Daniel staggered back a step. No, that's not. The man on the stairs lunged forward. Too fast. His hand shot out, grabbing Daniel's ankle. Daniel screamed, falling backward onto the kitchen floor. Let go. The man's grip tightened. You came down, the man whispered, his voice breaking. Now you stay. More hands emerged from the darkness. Reaching, grabbing, clawing at the edge of the doorway. Daniel kicked wildly, his free leg slamming into the man's face. The grip loosened. Just enough. Daniel yanked himself back, scrambling away from the opening. The hands followed, stretching, reaching, too far, as if they weren't bound by normal limits. No! Daniel shouted. He grabbed the edge of the hidden door and slammed it down. The hands vanished just before it closed. Bang! Silence. Daniel lay there, gasping, his entire body shaking. The smell lingered. Thick, clinging. But the voices, they were gone. For now. He stared at the floor, at the seam. They weren't trying to escape, he whispered. No. The calm voice again. They were trying to pull you in. Daniel swallowed hard. Then why do they sound like that? Because they remember. A chill ran down his spine. Just enough. Daniel sat up slowly. So they're, what? Trapped between something. Silence. Then, they are part of the house. Daniel's chest tightened. And if I went down there? A pause. Longer than before. Then, so would you. Daniel closed his eyes. The weight of it all pressed down on him. The voices. The lies. The trap. Everything in this house was designed to bring him to that door. To make him choose. And he almost had. A slow, shaky breath escaped him. I'm not opening it again, he said firmly. The house creaked softly. Good. Daniel frowned. You want me alive. Silence. Then, for now. His stomach dropped. What does that mean? No answer. Only a faint sound. From the walls. The scratching had returned. But this time, it was different. Slower. Weaker. You saw. Daniel turned toward the sound. Now you know. He stepped closer to the wall. It changes us. His chest tightened. Don't listen next time. Daniel frowned. Next time. Silence. Then, the calm voice returned one last time. Closer than ever. Right behind him. There's always a next time. Daniel didn't turn. He didn't need to. Because now, he understood. The house wasn't done with him. Not even close. This was only the beginning. And somewhere deep beneath the floor, something waited. Patient. Hungry. And listening. Daniel didn't move for a long time. He sat on the kitchen floor, staring at the seam where the hidden door had sealed itself shut again, perfectly, seamlessly, as if it had never existed. But he knew better now. They are still there, he whispered. The silence didn't answer him. Not the calm voice. Not the desperate ones. Just the house. Watching. Waiting. Daniel slowly pushed himself to his feet. His legs felt weak, unsteady, like they didn't fully belong to him anymore. Like part of him had almost stayed behind. He looked around the kitchen. Everything seemed normal. Too normal. The counter was clean. The knife he had used earlier lay exactly where he'd left it. The tiles showed no sign of the hidden door. If I didn't know, he muttered, I'd think I imagined it. But the smell still lingered. Faint now, but real. And deep down, he could still feel it. Something beneath the house. Something aware. Daniel turned away from the floor. I'm not going back down there, he said firmly. The words echoed slightly. Too much for a small kitchen. He froze. That echo. It hadn't come from the kitchen. It had come from behind the wall. Daniel turned slowly toward the sound. The wall separating the kitchen from the hallway. He stepped closer. Hello, he called out cautiously. No answer. But then, a soft click. Daniel's breath caught. The wall shifted. Not visibly. Not like the hidden door. But something changed. A faint outline appeared. A door. Tall. Narrow. exactly where there shouldn't be one. Daniel stared at it. That wasn't there before. The air around the door felt colder, thinner, as if the house itself didn't want it to exist. Don't. The whisper returned. Weak. Fading. Not that way. Daniel clenched his jaw. You told me not to open the basement too, he said. And look what that was. Silence. Then, this is worse. A chill ran through him. Daniel looked at the door again. It wasn't part of the house. He knew that instinctively. It didn't belong. Which meant, it might lead somewhere else. Or somewhere worse, he muttered. Behind him, the calm voice returned. You're learning. Daniel didn't turn. You're showing me all of this, he said slowly. Why? A pause. Then, because you listen. His stomach twisted, and the others didn't. They listened to the wrong things. Daniel's eyes flicked back to the hidden door, to the basement. Like them? Yes. The words settled heavily in the air. Daniel looked back at the new door. And this? He asked. Is this another trap? Silence. Then, everything here is. Daniel let out a slow breath. At least you're honest. The door creaked softly, opening just a fraction. Darkness waited on the other side, but not the same darkness as the basement. This one felt different, colder, quieter, less alive, and somehow, that made it more terrifying. Daniel stepped closer. Don't go, the whisper pleaded faintly. He hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to stop. But another thought pushed forward. If there's another part of this house, maybe there's another way out. He reached out slowly, pushed the door open. It didn't resist. It swung inward silently, revealing a narrow corridor. Daniel stared. It stretched far beyond what should have been possible, longer than the entire house. The walls were bare wood, rough, uneven, and the floor, it wasn't stable. It shifted slightly, like it wasn't fully solid. Daniel swallowed hard. This wasn't here before. It wasn't. The calm voice again. Then what is it? A pause. Then, a way through. Daniel's pulse quickened. Through what? No answer. Only silence. He stepped inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind him. Daniel spun around. No, 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 no. He grabbed the handle. Pulled. It didn't budge. The wall behind him was solid again. No door. Nothing. He was trapped. Inside the passage. Great, he muttered bitterly. Just great. He turned slowly. The corridor stretched endlessly ahead. No light. No sound. Just darkness. And something else. Writing. Faint. Scratched into the walls. Daniel stepped closer. His phone light flickered as he raised it. Words. Hundreds of them. Layered over each other. Desperate. Messy. Help US. Don't trust it. IT lies. IT watches. Daniel's breath hitched. They came here too. More messages appeared as he moved forward. I heard them. The walls are wrong. Don't turn around. Daniel froze. Don't turn around. The words stood out, carved deeper than the others. Fresher. His chest tightened. Why would someone write that? Behind him, a faint sound. A footstep. Daniel's entire body locked up. He didn't turn. He couldn't. The warning echoed in his mind. Don't turn around. The sound came again. Closer. Slow. Measured. Daniel's breathing became shallow. I'm not alone, he whispered. The air shifted. Something was behind him. Not touching, but close. Too close. Turn around. The calm voice. Soft. Inviting. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. No. You want to see. No. You need to understand. No. The footsteps stopped. Right behind him. Daniel could feel it now. A presence. Leaning in. Close to his ear. Turn around. The whisper wasn't calm anymore. It was sharper. More urgent. Daniel's hands trembled violently. Everything inside him screamed to turn. To look. To know. But the words on the wall burned into his mind. Don't turn around. I'm not doing it, he whispered. Silence. Long. Heavy. Then, the presence shifted. Pulled back. The air lightened slightly. Daniel exhaled shakily. He took a step forward, then another. The corridor stretched on. More writing. More warnings. And then, he saw something ahead. A door. At the end of the passage. Small. Wooden. And slightly open. A faint light seeped through the crack. Daniel's heart pounded. That has to be it. An exit. A way out. He moved toward it slowly. The closer he got, the quieter the corridor became. The whispers faded. The warnings disappeared. Until there was nothing. Just him. And the door. He reached out. Placed his hand on the handle. It felt warm. Too warm. Like something on the other side was alive. Daniel hesitated. Then, the calm voice returned. Right behind him. Closer than ever. This time, his breath caught. You can look. Daniel froze. The words echoed in his mind. This time, his grip tightened on the handle. The warnings on the walls. The voices. The basement. Everything had been a test. And now, another one. He closed his eyes, took a slow breath, and made his choice. Daniel didn't turn around. Not this time. Not ever again. The voice behind him lingered. Close. Breathing. Waiting. You can look. His fingers tightened around the handle of the door in front of him. No, he whispered. That's what you want. Silence. Then, a shift. The presence behind him withdrew slightly. Not gone, but watching. Then open it. Daniel swallowed hard. He didn't trust the voice. Didn't trust anything in this house. But he had learned something. Every time he listened to fear, he got closer to becoming like the others. Every time he listened to the house, he survived. Barely. He opened his eyes and pushed the door. It creaked softly as it swung inward. Light spilled out. Warm. Golden. Real. Daniel blinked, his eyes adjusting. And then, he stepped through. The corridor vanished behind him. And suddenly, he was standing outside. The front yard. The street. The same quiet suburban neighborhood. Cars parked neatly along the curb. Streetlights standing still. A faint breeze rustling the trees. Everything was normal. Daniel stumbled forward onto the grass. No way. He turned back. The house stood behind him. Unchanged. Silent. Ordinary. Like nothing had ever happened inside it. A laugh escaped him. Shaky. Disbelieving. I made it. He stepped onto the sidewalk. The air felt different here. Lighter. Cleaner. Free. For the first time since entering the house, Daniel felt like he could breathe. I'm out, he whispered. I'm actually out. He started walking. One step, then another. The street stretched ahead of him. And for a moment, everything felt real. Until he noticed something. The shadows. They were wrong. Daniel slowed. The street lights were behind him. Which meant his shadow should stretch forward. But it didn't. It stretched sideways. Across the pavement. Against the direction of the light. Daniel's stomach dropped. That's not. He stopped walking. His shadow didn't. It kept moving. Sliding slowly along the ground. Like it wasn't attached to him. Daniel's breath caught. No. The shadow paused. Then, it turned. Not the way a shadow should. Not bound by his body. It twisted. And faced him. Daniel staggered back. That's not possible. The shadow began to rise. Peeling itself off the ground. Stretching upward. Forming a shape. Tall. Familiar. Too familiar. Daniel's heart pounded violently. No, 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 no. The shape solidified. A figure. Standing in front of him. But not fully real. Still dark. Still shifting. A shadow. That wasn't his. You left, it said. The voice wasn't calm anymore. It wasn't distant. It was right in front of him. And it sounded like him. Daniel shook his head. No. I got out. I escaped. The shadow tilted its head. Just like the figure in the house had. Too far. Too smoothly. You left, it repeated. Daniel took another step back. Stay away from me. The shadow took a step forward. You left the house, it said. A pause. Then, but it didn't leave you. Daniel's blood ran cold. No, That's not. The shadow lunged. Daniel stumbled back, falling hard onto the pavement. The world flickered. For just a second, the street was gone, replaced by darkness, walls, the smell. Then, it snapped back. The street returned. But something had changed. Daniel scrambled to his feet. The neighborhood wasn't empty anymore. Figures stood in the distance, along the sidewalks, near the houses, watching him, not moving, just watching. Daniel's chest tightened. Who are they? The shadow answered. They left too. A chill ran through him. No. They thought they escaped. Daniel's breathing became erratic. But the house, the shadow continued, stepping closer. It doesn't lose people. The figures in the distance began to move. Slowly, stepping forward, one by one. Their movements were stiff, unnatural, like something was controlling them. Daniel backed away. No, this isn't real. The shadow smiled. Or at least, it tried to. Its face stretched unnaturally. It's more real than you think. The figures drew closer. Daniel could see them now. Their faces, sunken, empty, familiar, not strangers. People, the ones in the walls, the ones in the basement. They were here, outside. You said they were trapped. Daniel shouted. They are. The shadow's voice was calm again. Just not where you thought. Daniel shook his head violently. No, I got out. I followed the rules. You followed some. The shadow leaned closer. But not all. Daniel froze. What? The shadow's voice dropped to a whisper. Don't look. The words hit him like a shock. His breath caught. That was the rule. Yes. Daniel's mind raced. I didn't look. I never turned around. You did. The shadow's voice was soft, almost gentle. Daniel's stomach dropped. No, I didn't. The shadow tilted its head again. In the hallway. Daniel's memories flashed back. The corridor, the warnings, the writing on the wall, his phone light, his reflection, in the screen. Daniel's heart stopped. No. You looked. The truth hit him all at once. He hadn't turned. But he had seen. And in this house. That was enough. The shadow stepped back. The figures surrounded him now, closing in. You left, the shadow said. But you brought us with you. Daniel's breathing became frantic. No, I didn't. I didn't mean to. They never do. The figures reached him. Hands extended. Cold. Grasping. Daniel tried to run. But the ground beneath him shifted. The pavement cracked. The street warped. The houses bent inward. And suddenly, he was back. Inside. The living room. The house. The smell. The silence. Daniel collapsed to his knees. No. The shadow stood in front of him now. No longer bound to the ground. No longer pretending. You're learning, it said. Daniel looked up slowly. What happens now? The shadow smiled. This time, clearly, you stay. The walls creaked. The whispers returned, louder than ever, and somewhere deep beneath the house, something moved, something that had been waiting for him to come back. Daniel Mercer didn't scream. He didn't fight. He didn't run. Because this time, he understood. There was nowhere to go. The house had let him leave. Just long enough to prove that leaving meant nothing. Now he was back. And this time, it felt different. The air was heavier. The silence deeper. The walls closer. Like the house had tightened its grip. You stay. The shadow's words echoed in his mind long after it had disappeared. Daniel sat on the living room floor, staring blankly ahead. I'm not dead, he whispered. The house creaked softly. I'm not like them. A pause. Then, not yet. Daniel flinched. The voice wasn't in front of him. Not behind him. It was inside the house. Inside everything. Then what am I? He asked. Silence. Then, you're learning. Daniel clenched his fists. I don't want to learn, he snapped. I want out. The walls shifted slightly. You've seen the outside. Daniel's chest tightened. That wasn't real. It was real enough. He shook his head. No, it was part of this. All of this is part of you. The house groaned. Not in anger. In agreement. Daniel's breath caught. You're not just a place, he whispered. Silence. Then, no. A chill ran through him. You're something else. The floor beneath him creaked. You're close. Daniel slowly pushed himself to his feet. If I understand you, he said carefully, then maybe I can beat you. The house fell silent. Completely. Then, come. The word echoed through every wall, every corner, every inch of the house. Daniel froze. Come where? No answer. But something changed. The hallway. It shifted. The walls pulled back. The space stretched, revealing something new. A path. One he hadn't seen before, leading deeper into the house. Daniel stared at it. That wasn't there. It is now. His pulse quickened. This is another test. This is the truth. Daniel hesitated. Everything in him screamed not to trust it. But another thought pushed forward. If this thing is showing me something, it means I'm getting closer. Closer to what? He didn't know. But standing still hadn't helped. Running hadn't helped. Listening had only delayed the inevitable. So this time, he chose something different. He walked forward. The path stretched ahead of him. The deeper he went, the quieter the house became. The whispers faded. The creaks stopped. Until there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Just him. And the house. Watching. Waiting. The path ended at a door. Different from the others. Old. Worn. Not hidden. But sealed. Thick wooden planks nailed across it. Scratches covered the surface. Deep. Desperate. Daniel stepped closer. His heart pounded. Someone tried to keep this closed. They tried. The calm voice again. They failed. A pause. Then, you're here. Daniel swallowed hard. The implication was clear. Whatever was behind this door, it wasn't contained. It was waiting. For him. He reached out slowly, touched the wood. It was warm. Alive. His fingers brushed over the scratches. Words. Carved deep. Don't open. Daniel let out a weak breath. Everyone says that. And yet, he nodded slowly. Yeah. Because everyone who had come before him had opened something. The basement. The passage. The doors. Every choice led deeper. Every step pulled them closer. To this. The final door. Daniel stepped back. What happens if I don't open it? Silence. Then, you stay. His chest tightened. And if I do? A long pause. Longer than any before. Then, you understand. Daniel let out a slow breath. Understanding. That was what this had always been about. Not escape. Not survival. But knowing. Knowing what the house was. And why it kept people. His hand rose again. The planks trembled slightly beneath his touch. As if they were afraid. Or trying to hold something back. All right, Daniel whispered. Let's see what you are. He grabbed one of the wooden planks. Pulled. It resisted. Then, with a sharp crack, it broke free. The others followed. One by one. Until the door was bare. Unprotected. Waiting. Daniel's heart pounded. He placed his hand on the handle. Turned it slowly. The door creaked open. Darkness spilled out. Not empty. Not silent. Alive. Daniel stepped inside. And immediately, he felt it. A presence. Massive. Ancient. Watching him. The room was vast. Far larger than the house should allow. The walls pulsed. Slow. Rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. Daniel's breath caught. What is this? The heart. The voice was different now. Deeper. Closer. Real. Daniel stepped forward slowly. At the center of the room. Something moved. A shape. Huge. Shifting. Impossible to fully see. Like trying to look at something your mind refused to understand. Daniel's knees felt weak. You're the house. The shape pulsed. The house is me. His chest tightened. You've been alive this whole time. Always. The truth settled over him like a weight. And the people. The shape shifted. The walls around him rippled. Faces appeared within them. Hundreds. Thousands. All trapped. All part of it. They feed me. Daniel staggered back. No. They become me. His stomach twisted violently. That's why you trap them. The shape pulsed again. That's why I choose them. Daniel's breath shook. Why me? Silence. Then, you listened. The words hit him hard. You could have let me leave. I did. Daniel's chest tightened painfully. And you brought me back. You came back. The truth hit deeper than anything else. Every step, every choice. He had walked himself here. Daniel looked around the room. At the faces in the walls. At the thing in the center. At the heart of the house. You don't just want people, he said slowly. You want them to understand before you take them. The shape pulsed. Yes. Daniel's hands trembled. Why? A long silence followed. Then, the answer. So they don't fight. The room fell silent. Daniel stood there, shaking, realizing something terrible. The house didn't just trap people. It broke them. Made them accept it. Made them choose it. And now, it was his turn. You understand. Daniel closed his eyes. Yeah. Then choose. His breath trembled. The final choice. Stay. And become part of the house. Oh. Fight something that had already won. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. And stared into the heart. Daniel Mercer stood at the center of the impossible room, staring into the shifting mass that called itself the heart of the house. It pulsed slowly. Deliberately. Like it had all the time in the world. And maybe it did. The walls breathed. Faces pressed faintly against them, some clear, some barely visible, like memories fading in and out of existence. Their eyes moved, watching him, waiting. You understand. The voice was no longer distant, no longer calm. Now it felt inevitable. Daniel swallowed hard. Yeah, he said quietly. I understand. The truth sat heavy in his chest. This wasn't a haunting. It wasn't random. The house didn't trap people by accident. It chose them, watched them, tested them, and then it gave them a choice. A lie disguised as freedom. Then choose. Daniel's heart pounded. Stay. Or fight. But now he knew. Fighting wasn't what it seemed. Nothing in this house was. He took a slow step forward. The heart shifted slightly. Reacting. You said something earlier, Daniel said. Silence. Then, many things. You said you let me leave. A pause. I did. Daniel nodded slowly. But I didn't really leave. The walls pulsed faintly. No, because part of me stayed. The faces in the walls twitched. Yes. Daniel exhaled shakily. That's the trick, isn't it? The heart didn't answer. But it didn't need to. You don't trap people all at once, Daniel continued. You do it in pieces. The room seemed to tighten slightly. You let them walk, he said. You let them think they are free. His voice dropped. But you take something every time. The silence that followed was different. Not empty. Listening. Every choice, Daniel whispered. Every door, every step, every time I listened. He clenched his fists. I gave you something. The heart pulsed again. Slower now. Stronger. You gave willingly. Daniel shook his head. No, he said firmly. You made it feel like I was choosing. The walls rippled. You were. His chest tightened. Then I choose now. The air changed instantly. The room grew colder. Heavier. The faces in the walls turned toward him. All at once. Yes. The voice deepened. Eager. Choose. Daniel took another step forward, closer to the heart. I'm not staying. The words echoed. Sharp. Final. The room went still. Completely. Even the pulsing stopped. For the first time, the house hesitated. You misunderstand. Daniel shook his head. No, he said. I finally understand. The temperature dropped sharply. The walls trembled. There is no leaving. Daniel smiled faintly. I know. The answer seemed to catch the house off guard. A ripple passed through the walls. The faces shifted. Confused. Uncertain. But I'm not choosing between staying or leaving, Daniel continued. I'm choosing something else. The heart began to pulse again. Faster now. There is no other choice. Daniel stepped even closer. Yes, he said quietly. There is. He raised his hand. Not toward the door. Not toward escape. But toward the heart itself. The air vibrated. Stop. The voice was sharper now. Less certain. You said it yourself, Daniel said. You take people in pieces. The heart pulsed violently. Stop. So what happens? Daniel continued, his voice steady now. If I take something back? The room shuddered. The faces in the walls twisted. Some in fear. Some in recognition. You cannot. Daniel smiled faintly. You don't know that. And then, he reached forward and touched the heart. The moment his hand made contact, everything broke. The room exploded into sound. Screams. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Layered. Overlapping. The walls cracked. The faces surged forward. Not trapped anymore. Moving. Reaching. Daniel gasped as something surged through him. Cold. Burning. Memories. Not his own. Voices. Help me. I didn't know. Please don't leave me here. Daniel screamed as the weight of them crashed into his mind. Every person. Every life. Every choice. All of it. Inside him. The heart pulsed wildly. Unstable. Stop. The voice was no longer calm. It was afraid. Daniel gritted his teeth. You took them, he shouted. The room shook violently. So I'm taking them back. The walls split. Cracks spread like fractures through glass. The faces tore free. Not fully, but enough. Their voices rose. Not in fear, but in defiance. Let us go. The heart convulsed. They are mine. Daniel tightened his grip. No, he said. The word came out stronger than he expected. Steadier. They are not. The room began to collapse. The floor buckled. The ceiling cracked. Reality itself seemed to tear apart. Daniel's vision blurred. The weight of the voices grew unbearable. His body shook violently. He could feel himself slipping, breaking, becoming part of it. Oh, destroying it. There was no in-between. You will break. The house roared. Daniel smiled through the pain. Maybe. His grip tightened. But so will you. The heart shrieked. A sound that wasn't human. Wasn't anything. The cracks spread faster. The walls collapsed inward. The faces surged forward. Not trapped anymore. Not bound. Free. For the first time. The pressure inside Daniel reached its peak. And then, everything went silent. Daniel opened his eyes. He was lying on the ground. Outside, the house stood in front of him. Still. Silent. Normal. But something was different. The air felt lighter. The smell was gone. The weight. Gone. Daniel slowly sat up. What happened? No answer. No voices. No presence. Nothing. He looked at the house. Waiting. But it didn't react. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. It was just a house. For the first time. Truly empty. Daniel let out a shaky breath. I did it. But as he stood there, something felt wrong. Not outside. Inside. Daniel froze. A faint sound echoed in his mind. Soft. Barely there. A thump. His breath caught. No. Another thump. Slow. Steady. Like a heartbeat. Daniel's stomach dropped. And in that moment, he realized the truth. He hadn't destroyed the heart. He had moved it. And now, it was inside him. Daniel Mercer didn't move. He stood there in the quiet street, staring at the house that had nearly consumed him, waiting for it to breathe, to shift, to whisper again. But it didn't. It was still. Empty. Dead. And yet, a thump. Daniel's hand slowly rose to his chest. A thump. His heartbeat. Except, it didn't feel like his. Too slow. Too heavy. Like something larger than him was beating inside a space too small to hold it. No, he whispered. But he already knew. The moment he touched the hat. The moment he tried to take something back. He hadn't destroyed it. He had become it. Daniel staggered backward slightly, his breath shallow. No, I didn't. I didn't choose this. The empty house stood silently behind him. No answer. No voice. No presence. Because it wasn't there anymore. It was here. Inside him. A thump. Daniel doubled over slightly as a wave of pressure surged through his body. Not pain. Something worse. Awareness. It spread through him like fire, cold, heavy, suffocating. And with it, he felt them. The others. Not voices this time. Not whispers. But presence. Faint. Fragmented. Still there. Inside him. Daniel gasped. They're still here. Not trapped in walls. Not buried beneath floors. But carried. By him. A trembling breath escaped his lips. I saved you, he whispered weakly. Silence. Then, a feeling. Not words. Not sound. But something close enough. We are not free. Daniel's stomach twisted. What? The realization came slowly. Terribly. He had broken the house. Freed the pieces. But they hadn't disappeared. They had nowhere to go. Except. Into him. A thump. The heartbeat grew stronger. Louder. More defined. Daniel fell to his knees. No, no, I can't. I can't hold all of this. The world around him flickered. For just a second. The street bent. The houses warped. The shadows stretched unnaturally along the ground. Then, it snapped back. Daniel froze. What was that? A chill ran through him. And then, he felt it. The connection. Not just to the people inside him, but to the space around him. The street. The air. The ground beneath his hands. It responded. Subtly, but undeniably. Daniel's breath caught. No. He pressed his hand against the pavement. The surface rippled slightly. Like water. Then stilled. Daniel yanked his hand back. I didn't just take the heart. His voice trembled. I became the house. The truth settled over him. Heavy. Unavoidable. The house had never been about walls. Or doors. Or rooms. It had been about something else. Something that needed space. Something that needed people. Something that needed to grow. And now, it had a new form. Daniel staggered to his feet. No, I won't let this happen. The heartbeat responded. A thump. Stronger. Defiant. Daniel clutched his chest. I'm not like you. But the words felt weak. Because part of him knew the truth. He wasn't like the others. He hadn't been broken. He hadn't submitted. He had taken control. And that made him worse. The first sign came an hour later. Daniel had walked. No destination. No plan. Just movement. Trying to outrun the feeling inside him. But it followed. It always followed. A thump. He stopped at the edge of another street. Different houses. Different people. Normal. Safe. Untouched. Daniel stared at them. They don't know, he whispered. The heartbeat slowed. Watching. Considering. Daniel shook his head. No. He turned away. But something inside him pulled. Not physical. Instinct. Like hunger. Like gravity. Drawing him back. Toward the houses. Toward the people. Daniel's breathing became erratic. No. I'm not doing this. But his feet didn't move. Or rather, they moved on their own. One step forward. Then another. A thump. The closer he got, the stronger it became. The air around him shifted slightly. Subtly, the shadows stretched. The light dimmed. Just a little. But enough. A woman across the street paused. Frowned slightly. As if something felt off. Daniel stopped. Horrified. No, no, they can feel it. The heartbeat surged. Excited. Hungry. Daniel stumbled backward. I won't do this. The world flickered again. For a split second. The houses around him changed. Their windows darkened. Their shapes twisted. Becoming something else. Something familiar. Then, they snapped back. Normal again. The woman blinked. Shook her head. And walked away. Daniel stood frozen. It's spreading, he whispered. The truth hit him like a hammer. The house didn't need to stay in one place. It never had. It only needed a host. And now, it had one. Daniel staggered backward, panic rising in his chest. No, I have to stop this. But how? Destroy the hat. He was the hat. Destroy himself? The thought lingered. Heavy. Tempting. But something inside him resisted. Not fear, not survival instinct. Something deeper. The house. It didn't want to die. And now, neither did he. Daniel sank to his knees again, his hands gripping his head. There has to be another way. Silence. Then, a faint voice. Not the house. Not the calm presence. But something else. One of the others. You can choose. Daniel's breath caught. Choose what? He whispered. What you become. The words settled into him. Not a command. Not manipulation. A truth. Daniel slowly lifted his head. What I become. The heartbeat pulsed. Waiting. Daniel looked at the houses around him. At the people walking their normal lives. Unaware. Unprotected. Vulnerable. Just like he had been. A slow breath filled his lungs. I won't be you, he said quietly. The heartbeat stuttered. Uncertain. I won't trap people, Daniel continued. The air shifted. Resisting. I won't feed on them. The pressure inside him grew. Pushing back. Fighting. But I won't let you spread either. The heartbeat faltered. For the first time. It hesitated. Daniel stood up slowly. If I'm the house now, he said, his voice steady, then I decide what kind of house I am. The world around him trembled slightly. The shadows flickered. The air bent. Then, it settled. Calm. Still. Daniel exhaled slowly. The weight inside him didn't disappear. The presence didn't vanish. But it changed. Subtle. Controlled. Contained. For now, Daniel turned away from the street. From the people. From the life he could no longer return to. And began to walk. No destination. No plan. Just distance. Between him and everyone else. Behind him, the street remained normal. Unaffected. Untouched. But far ahead, the air shimmered faintly. Just for a moment. Like a doorway waiting to form. Daniel stopped. Stared at it. Then looked down at his hands. What am I going to become? The heartbeat answered. A thump. Steady. Patient. Waiting. Daniel took a step forward. Into the unknown. And somewhere, far away, a door appeared where there had never been one before.